The howl of the wolf fills a lonely canyon high above the desert land they call Chacote. The flint strikes the steel, a cloud conceals the final stand, and the noble fall of the great will be here. Stay safe, stay warm, and you stay free with Chacote Outdoor Recreation.
As Jesus died to make men holy, let us die to make them free.
you're seeing here is an 1885 Model M McClellan. There's not a whole lot of brass on it. It's relatively easy to maintain. And typically on a campaign, a trooper would carry their oilcloth rain poncho up front. Obviously, you've got your saber here, 1840 light cavalry saber. Then on the back, you've got a feed bag, and inside the feed bag, you have your shelter half. And rolled up in the shelter half is a blanket or a shirt or whatever accoutrements that the cavalry trooper might be able to carry out in the field with them. And then in the saddlebags, you would normally carry 3 days worth of rations, because that's about how far you'd get between 20 miles a day, 60 roughly miles, 60 between cavalry stations here in the West. Canteen, obviously, tin cup, and then the picket line to tie off the horses in the field, so as you need. So that's pretty much it. It's pretty austere living. The big thing is you have to find water.
Let me ask you this, you guys probably had a farrier with you, right, back in the day?
Yeah, absolutely.
But does the individual trooper carry anything, like if he throws a shoe or, anything like that? Does the individual trooper carry any accoutrements with him for ferrying purposes?
They may have taken a little bit with them, but not a whole lot. So, not for a 3-day campaign.
Yeah.
And that's typically, again, what you're seeing here. This is a three-day campaign setup. It's basically we ride out, find water, and just scout. That's what we are, as light cavalry.
After the war with Mexico, this area is going to be organized by the U.S. Army. It's going to be called the Territorial New Mexico. And the international border will be up here at the Gila River. Then in 1853, this is the Gadsden Purchase. That brings the border to where it is now. But, when the Civil War starts in 1861, there's going to be a Major Henry Sibley that he's actually at Fort Union, but he's of Southern birth. He resigns his commission and goes to Richmond, gets a commission with the Confederacy as a brigadier general, and he will actually form up an army out of San Antonio, Texas. They'll start off with about 3,000 Confederates from San Antonio. Now, most people, when they think of Confederates, they think of those nice wool uniforms with kettles. Actually, the way I'm dressed is much more like a Confederate soldier from West Texas. Of course, they were younger, slimmer, but the thing is that these guys wore whatever they could get from back home. In fact, as one Texas civilian had written, he said, you would not even know that they were army unless you saw the flags flying and heard the drums beating, because everyone was dressed different. The officers, a lot of times they had clothing that was made by a wife or daughter or mother or something. That they made it in what they call military appearance. So you have these long frock coats, short coats, there was a wide assortment of uniforms or clothing, stuff like that. Most everyone wore slouch hats like this, which was common back then. Same thing with weapons. A lot of these guys come from San Antonio, and they think that they would be provided with weapons. No such thing. This is the furthest extent of the Confederacy as far as the chain of supply. They just didn't have any resources. Guys have to go home and get shotguns. They have to get hunting weapons that they use and stuff like that. That's what they would use. In fact, one company of these Texans is under Captain Willis Lane is going to be fitted out with lances, believe it or not. And this is how long the lance would be. So pretend that pole goes to where you are. That's how long that lance would be. One of the big reasons would be that the Confederacy is hurting for weapons, but also Captain Lane had been a veteran of the Mexican War in 1846, and he thought that the Mexican lancers were just the coolest thing, except they were really spectacular. Regrettably, for this company of approximately 70 Confederates, technology is going to have advanced. Back in that era, the Mexican War, Napoleonic Age, Revolutionary War, and so forth. They're going to be shooting this, just the round ball. You see, okay? Not much, not really any kind of aerodynamic quality to it. It has a range, effective range of 40 to 60 yards. Not even a football field. So they will say, fire when do you see the whites of their eyes? Make pretty good sense. But the British and the French know that with these rifle muskets, which the rifle in itself has been known for hundreds of years previously, but they're still using the round ball as a projectile. The thing is that when they, it's not effective. It's not as effective as they thought. By 1847, a French army officer by the name of Claude Apollinaire comes up with a new type of projectile. It spells last name M-I-N-I-E. French accent mark on the end. Of course, in English, we have those stinking accent marks. But this is the mini ball. This is what we call the mini ball. Now, what that does, it's got an aerodynamic quality to it. But you see this area in here? The explosion in the breech causes the skirting to fly out, pick up those grooves in there, and as it's going down the barrel, it starts spinning. So now it imparts that gyroscopic effect on this projectile. 40 to 60 yards, 250 to 300 yards. And in the hands of a good sharpshooter, 500 and 600 yards. So this is a game changer. This is what they will eventually, everyone will start using in the Civil War. But they use so many horses in this particular engagement that they became infantry in the rest of the campaign out here. But and in fact, Captain Will Slane, was wounded so severely that he will commit suicide in a couple of days because of the extent of his wounds. But technology just, the thing is that the Battle of Valverde, 21 February 1862, this is going to be a very small part of that. What actually takes place on here is that the Confederates will actually engage with the Federals, and they're able to capture the artillery the Federals have. And this causes a panic within the Federal lines. The Federals start streaming across the Rio Grande they go back into Fort Craig. The Confederates, not knowing what the strength is of Fort Craig, and it was rumored that the Union soldiers were actually using, have you ever heard of Quaker cannons? They're actually just logs, cylinders that are painted black. And from a distance, you could very easily think that they were cannon barrels. Those were called Quaker cannons. They didn't fire, but they gave the illusion that there was more artillery. So the Confederates don't charge it, and simply for whatever, he decides that he's going to go around Fort Craig, and he starts going back up on the Rio Grande, goes up to Albuquerque, Santa Fe. Finally, what they're trying to do is to Fort Union so that they can restock with supplies that they believe that they're going to be victorious, of course. And they would be able to get more weapons and whatnot. But down here is where the mountains, the San Gabriel Crystal Mountains, start becoming a lesser elevation. They will, in the valley here, they will make contact with some Colorado volunteers. There's about 850 Federals that will fight approximately 1,200 of these Confederates on 26 March 1862. The first day is going to be kind of harrowing in that it's a small canyon. These sides, it goes back and forth, and what actually will happen is that they will call a truce at the end of that 26th of March. 27th of March, they bury the dead, treat their wounded. The 28th of March, they continue hostilities. What happens is that there's a small Union force that goes up onto the, let me get the, most people don't go this far into everywhere, we just got to go that done for a while. But here's the canyon right here. Now the first day, kind of a seesaw back and forth type of battle. And to make things a little bit more confusing, especially, well, for both sides actually, is that a lot of the rebel soldiers will be wearing blue uniforms. They'll be wearing blue wool tunic like that, and they might have blue kepi caps and stuff like that. It's not that they're trying to confuse the Federals so much, it's that this is at a much higher elevation. I forget how many thousands, it's like 3,500 feet. It's cold, it's February. Their clothing, since they left Texas, is falling apart. So when they ever can find clothing from prisoners or armories or depots that they've raided, they're going to wear them. They're going to wear those wool uniforms. So a lot of the soldiers, these Confederate soldiers, are not, well, maybe not a lot, but enough to create a little bit of confusion. But anyway, what happens on the that third day, that second day, they had a truce. So on the 28th of March, the Union forces, what they do is they come down here through the canyon, but they veer off. And under Major Shivington, that was in command of this force, he comes up. They were supposed to come on the flank of the Confederates, but he actually goes a little too far. There's a guy named Chavez that actually knows the territory somewhat. He will bring him out there, and he brings him too far down the canyon. Unfortunately, this is where the supplies are for the Confederates. And so they're right over the Confederate supply. They have a very small force that's guarding it. The Union soldiers will actually go down into the canyon. They overrun the very weak Confederate force. The Confederates were doing pretty good here when they were engaged with the Federals. But now, as the days progressed, after a 6-hour battle, it looks like the Confederates will carry the day. There's a lone Confederate soldier that starts riding down here to inform the Confederate general or Confederate colonel that their supplies have been destroyed. And since the supplies were destroyed, the only thing the guys had, the Confederates had, was what they were carrying on their backs or on a horse or something like that. So this pretty much ended it as far as the Confederacy's attack going into Colorado, or to Fort Union first, then Colorado. Anyway, the Confederates started retreating back. The Union officer in charge, he'll be on one side of the Rio Grande, the Confederates will be on the other side, and they're just kind of following the Confederates to make sure that they leave the area. A little bit after the war, Canby gets kind of criticized that he didn't capture this Confederate force. He said, well, to be truthful, I really didn't have the resources to take care of all these Confederates. So he's pushing them, making sure that they also are being harried by some Comanches in the area. They never really have any problems, but it caused problems as far as hypervigilance. But anyway, the Confederates were retreated by approximately the end of June 1862. The Confederates had left and now to Texas. So now the Federal forces will maintain the area. Now this over here, this far western area, this was actually a different, well, this was going on too. This would be on April 15th. You have the Battle of Picacho. What happens here in the SIA is that when the Confederates come out here, Captain Sherrard Hunter is sent to Tucson, approximately 60 to 70 Confederates. They go into Tucson, take over the area there. In fact, most of the people were actually very happy to see the Confederates. Not just that they were all happy about the Confederacy being there, but the thing is that the Federal soldiers that had been here before the Civil War, they had been withdrawn to what was called the seat of the rebellion, because they, at the time, everyone thought it's all going to be over by December. So we can send our troops back as soon as we crush these Confederates. Those are famous last words. But anyway, Sherrard Hunter, he's out here, and The inhabitants of Tucson, the Tubac, they're just overjoyed that these soldiers come out. They don't care what side they're on. Although there was a lot of Confederate sympathy in the area, not everyone was Confederate sympathy, but they were just really happy to see soldiers coming out. So you got these 60 to 70 Confederates here. 10 are sent up to Picacho. The Confederates know that the California troops are going to be coming out at some point in time. They just don't know how many, and they don't know when. So these 10 are at the kind of a club of trees in Picacho. You've been to Picacho? Mm-hmm. Okay, so you know it's got a very good view of the area. You're at a higher elevation and all. Well, the Union officer in charge of what's going to be later called the California Column, he's coming out here, and what he does is he sends a small detachment ahead just to see what's happening, you know. And what happens is that Gerard Hunter with about 10, he's got about actually 13 men and 1 civilian scout. He's supposed to wait till the other column under the other officer, the guy's name. He's supposed to come in from the east, and then it's supposed to be a kind of pincher movement. But unfortunately, what happens is that the Barrett was coming in there with. He's told by a civilian scout, don't go in there, mount. Unfortunately, Barrett sees 3 Confederates at the campfire. He draws his sidearm, shoots in the air, captures those Confederates, which is all well good. However, the other 7 Confederates are now alerted that the enemy is in the area, so they take up defensive positions. There's about an hour and a half battle that takes place. Barrett, 3 others are killed. These 3 Confederates that are captured, they're brought back to the California column, and they're interrogated. They come up with this big line about there's hundreds of Confederates in Tucson. They have artillery, and it's well fortified. Well, the Union officer is not sure. He's never been to Tucson. He doesn't know. So what he does is he waits for some more supply of reinforcements to come out. By about the end of May, last week in May of 1862, he will attack Tucson in 3 separate columns. By that time, they find out that Captain Hunter had either been ordered out of Tucson or he heard that Sibley's brigade had been defeated and is no longer in the territory. So Hunter's out. This is all under Union control. So the Union forces will stay out here until the end of the Civil War. It's interesting that up till even January 1865, there's a war clone that writes in his diary that there had been talk about sending Confederate forces down here and making another try for the area. Nothing ever happened out of that. It was just some talk that was going about. But anyway, that's it. And for the Civil War engagements out here, there's, like I said, half of those 18 combat situations I talked about, only 9 of them are between the whites and the Indians. So most would be Confederates against the Apache. But there'll be one last battle between the Federal forces and the Comanche. And this is where the Comanches learn about artillery. So what happens is that there's about 225 Confederates that are marching from Tucson. And we get out to right here, this is Cochise County. There's a small natural spring out there. Well, they figured there was about 400 or 500 Comanches that were up in these mountain areas, the hill areas above the natural springs. These Comanches wait for these federal forces to come into the canyon, and they start firing at them. What happens is that the Federals, they don't really have the ability to fight off the Indians because of the natural protection they have. So they retreat out. Fortunately for them, they have 2 mountain howitzers. Mountain howitzer is a small, here's a model of a Napoleon cannon. This is This would be full scale, but if it was real, it'd come up to about here. I mean, the wheel top would come up to about here. Well, this would be about 3/4 in size. The thing is, the mountain howitzer can be disassembled, put on 2 horses or 2 mules, brought out to wherever, then unpacked and reassembled. Well, they bring these mountain howitzers out, reassemble them, move them out there, boom, boom, a few volleys up into the mountains there. This is some canister that from a cannonball.
Wow.
And, this poor Comanche learned the hard way about cannonball practice. But anyway, that was it pretty much for that was about July 5, 1862. So that's pretty much it for the Civil War here. The thing is that this huge section of land, the Lincoln administration now figures, this huge amount of land, we should break it up into at least 2 separate territories. But they weren't sure. Hold on, I got but this huge section of the whole this territory was New Mexico territory. Now, when the Confederates came out, they said from the 34th parallel south, this is going to be territorial Confederacy. And that kind of corresponded to the old 3430, which is back east. But they figured 34. They said this is going to be Confederate territory, and this is going to be Union territory. Well, of course, the Union didn't see it that way, but that's what they originally thought. They made Mesquite the capital of this new Confederate. Sometimes you hear it called Confederate New Mexico. Sometimes you hear it called Confederate Arizona. It seems to have been an interchangeable term. The Lincoln administration figures that they should split the South into at least 2 separate territories. So here's some of they weren't sure they wanted to go with this Arizona because, of course, what the Confederates are called. So here's some of the terms, some suggestions. Plumeria, Gadzonia, Montezuma, Arizonia. But when it came back signed by Abraham Lincoln, 24 February 1863, it's going to be the territory of Arizona, and it's going to split it north to south rather than east to west, which was kind of the habit, the custom back then, what east-west borderline. The reason they did it north-south, this might be apocryphal, but from what I understand is that the people down here, the whites that settled down here, this is where most of the whites were, are actually from Texas. And being from Texas, they're probably going to be Democrats. Well, of course, Lincoln was a Republican, so he's splitting that huge political block up there. This is going to be territory of New Mexico. This will be the territory of Arizona. But that's why it has a north-south rather than an east-west border on it. Now, you'll notice that this area over here, that was originally part of the Arizona territory. That's not, we don't have that anymore. What happens is that, first I have to go back just a little bit. On November, the first week of November, 1864, Lincoln's running for re-election. He's not sure he's going to make it. He wants to try as much as he can to increase his odds. So what he does is he cuts a deal with the Nevada territorial officials up here. He says, I'll tell you what, I will bring you in as president, I'll bring you in as a state. But your electoral college votes, they come to aid. Deal done, we'll do it. So he gets the electoral votes for Nevada. Turns out he didn't need it. He got popular vote easily. Of course, he didn't know that at the time. So Nevada becomes a state. And when does it become a state? I always thought this is interesting because when armed bandit, right? October 31, 1864. Halloween. Trick or treat. But if you notice on the state flag, it says Battle Born. It says Battle Born because that's when they're the last state to become become a state during the American Civil War. There's 2 other states that will come in during the Civil War. Kansas, January 1861. West Virginia will come in June of 1863. And October 31, Halloween, trick or treat, the statehood day for the veteran. But I always thought that was kind of interesting. The days, the old days, they come in trick or treat. But anyway, what happens now is that you've got the state of Nevada up here, the Territorial of Arizona. 1866, a large silver lode has been discovered up in here. Well, the federal government decides this huge influx of miners that would surely show up can be best handled by the state of Nevada rather than the Territorial of Arizona. So what they do, the federal government says, we will split, we'll split it up right there. Right about there. This goes to Nevada, and this goes to Arizona. So that's how we lost Las Vegas. I don't know if that was a good thing or a bad thing, but that's the way it goes. But if you have any questions on stuff that you'd like to look at, or
Says the guy, I've often heard Picacho Peak described as the Gettysburg of the West.
no, that was Glorieta.
Glorieta was the
That was
Gettysburg.
Glorieta. Yeah, Picacho is often called the furthest western battle. Actually, there was one engagement that takes place about 80 miles east of Yuma, and that's when these Confederates are sent out to Picacho. They'll send a small unit, maybe about 20 of them before they go to Picacho. They'll go down the Gila River, destroying any kind of hay piles that they find, because there was a guy that was in the area that was a Union sympathizer. He was a merchant. He had actually stocked hay bales for the horses, and they go along, they destroy all these, they burn them up, but they actually will make contact with the federal forces from California. The Federals are actually camped out, and I actually call it a drive-by, because what happens is the Confederates will see the Union forces out there. They shoot a few rounds at a sentry, wound him, and then they take off. So that was what I consider to be a drive-by. But this Picacho is actually going to be bad, about an hour and a half battle. And I got some other stuff here that people would have used back in the 19th century. This is a trapdoor rifle. This is going to be the first breech-loading weapon that the U.S. Army goes to. But this will be in 1866. So during the Civil War, they have those nice lever action Henrys and Winchesters and stuff. The thing is, the U.S. Army never buys those because they're too expensive. Now, I don't know if you ever heard of Hiram Verdant. He was a wealthy man in Pennsylvania. He actually, on his own dime, supplies his troops, his guys, and they wear a very distinctive green, forest green uniform, and they're going to be sharpshooters, hand-picked sharpshooters. But those weapons are going to be from Hiram Verdant. The federal government never goes to those nice lever action weapons. They're just too expensive. The thing is that this weapon cost the government about $13. A Winchester or Henry would be $40 to $45. Quite a jump in money there. So they just didn't have the bucks for it. The Civil War had drained the federal budget quite a bit. So they're not wanting to go out buying these nice expensive weapons and stuff like that. And they're just fighting Indians. You know, that was kind of the attitude. The thing is, why would they want to go to breach weapons? The thing is that they know that it's very similar, in fact, to, remember in Hampton Roads, you have the Monitor and the Merrimack? They duke it out. They're two ironclads. It's a draw. No one's in. Every Navy in the world sees what's happened there, and they say, the wooden ship is done for. The wooden fighting ship, we got to go to ironclads. Same kind of deal happens for the rifle. You go to Europe, in June, July of 1866. Battle of Königgrätz. The Prussians are fighting with the Austrians. Well, the Prussians have a new type of weapon. It was created in the 1840s, actually. It was called the needle gun. It was a breech-loading, bolt-action weapon. It had a lot of technical problems. The men, when they went into battle, they had to carry some extra firing pins because they would often get bent. They had to do a field repair. But the thing is, these breech loaders are going to be a heck of a lot faster than these muzzle loaders, and that's what the Austrians had. They had the muzzle loader. Well, because their rate of fire was so much better, the Prussians just kind of wiped the Austrians, Austrian army. Every army in the world now sees this as, we've got to go to breech loaders. So, unfortunately, things like that happen. So.
All right, well, I know I went through some of that pretty quick. Does anybody have any questions before I continue? No? All right then. This is Bill here with Chacote Outdoor Recreation. Get ready for a good time.
Stay safe, stay well, and stay free.
Bill forgot to pack the spatula, so we had to make one out of a piece of cardboard we found, after plunging it, of course. And, yeah, well, anyways, getting the job done. We got sausage, we got bacon, and we got fried eggs, all keto, and coffee. Ready for action, man, ready for action.